When my son Jonathan died in 1995, I thought my life was over. I had this illusion before his death that I had everything, and the Hartford Courant even told me so. And what I realized after he passed away was that I did not know what mattered. I didn't know if the life I was living mattered at all. And so the way my family dealt with loss was to focus on, we made a choice to celebrate life. And we made the decision that we would do something for a picture of a little girl who I'd seen in a park in a wheelchair watching the other kids play on a playground she couldn't get to and play on. If I had not had that picture of that little girl that I'd seen, I'm not actually sure I would have come up with a new chapter in my life. That little girl was my focus for the next 10 years. We imagined that playgrounds would be places where children of all abilities should be able to play. We imagined that Jonathan would want playgrounds to be places where everyone could play. And we started by building a playground in West Hartford called Jonathan's Dream. And more than 1,000 people from the entire state, it felt like, helped us build it. That's the beautiful part of the story. That's the part that gave me the direction and the solace to go on. 10 years later, I woke up and realized that when Jonathan died and when we decided to do that project, that I had taken the fork in the road towards service to others, which is a beautiful thing and probably was my salvation. But I had forgotten to put myself into the equation at all. And in fact, I didn't have any permission to put myself into the equation. And then I was even more lost than I had been when Jonathan died. And I didn't know where to turn. And through amazing both research and support systems and amazing women in my life, I came up with this technique of mining your life. And there are handouts that you will be getting today. And so there are worksheets and things like that that are there for you. And I'm hoping that some of that will give you some of the real techniques. But what I want to be able to say is that if you think about your life, think about who you are at this point in your life, everything that has happened to you, the good, the bad, the challenging, the frustrating, all of those pieces can be the gold that you can use to chart your course for the future. And so what I encourage people to do is to divide their life up into segments. Think about the different stages of your life. Think about the defining people and moments. Think about the turning points, the places where you had to make choices, the places where you went in one direction or another. And what did you leave behind? What might still be there for you to be able to pick up? And then to use that to, I call it find the gold, and then use that gold to chart your course. The next step is to define a North Star. Doesn't mean that that's exactly where you're going to go, but to have a vision. I loved the workshop this morning to see some of the pieces, there's so much of this is universal wisdom, right? And it's just we each have a different perspective and a different story on how we do that. But to have a North Star and then to take one small micro step, the smallest of steps. And the story I want to tell you is about a client I had who was an art director for a big advertising agency. When we talked about what her passion was and what gave her joy, what she realized was that she had not painted in more than 15 years. Now, as an art director, as an artist, her work was all about art, right? She had translated her passion for art into a career that she loved. But somewhere along the line, she had left her art behind. And she said to me, but I don't have time. I work all the time. I have a family, I have a life. There's no time for me in my life. And I said to her, could you do 15 minutes? She was like, well, everybody has 15 minutes, but what can you do in 15 minutes? And so we made a list. She made the list. I just sort of encouraged her of 15 things she could do in 15 minutes or less that did not require anyone else's permission, time, or money. Okay, she's an artist. What does that look like? Well, she could go online and look at new paints. She could go to a museum website and look at art. She came up with a dozen different things she could do. And then I said to her, could you commit to 15 minutes a week for your art, no matter what? And she said, well, what does no matter what mean? And it means that if it gets to be Sunday night and you have not yet spent at least 15 minutes in your art, you're not going to go to bed until you do so. Okay, fine, she committed. First week, she couldn't find 15 minutes. All she did was go online and play with colors. Okay, fine. Second week, she drew a thumb. Then she drew another finger and another finger and another finger. And she would call me every week to say, you know, nothing's really happening. And I'm like, that's okay. I said, but I think there's a hand on your on your page. 2 years later, she had her first gallery show. And it started with 15 minutes or more a week devoted to some small piece of your passion, some small piece of your joy that makes it work for you. So I love her story. Her name is Sonia, and she does art now all the time. And somehow, some weeks, she only has 15 minutes. But other weeks, she ends up spending 3 or 4 hours. But the reality is, in her day-to-day life, she can't do it all the time. I have 2 things I would like to leave you with. The one is that I'm going to be doing a workshop, a free workshop, on the first Saturday of November from 10 to 12. And it will be all about mining your life. And so the worksheet that's in here, you can do it on your own in the handouts. But I have found that if you can give yourself 2 hours to actually come together and dive into a topic like that, you'll get so much more out of it. So I invite you to participate in that. And everyone who participates, I will be able to give a free signed copy of my book, Accidental Courage, Boundless Dreams. The publisher just had 14 cases he sent me, and I thought, well, I should share them with good people. So happy to share them with you. And I want to end by just telling you a story. I'm a big believer in acorns. Inside acorns are the seeds of the mighty oaks, right? We've all heard those poems. Every year in my work at the University of Hartford, where I'm the director of the Women's Advancement Initiative, we hold leadership retreats for incoming freshman students. And at the close of that leadership retreat, I hand each of those students a silver pocket acorn and a real acorn from Hartford College for Women, which is the legacy of the program that I run. And then at the end of the retreat, all of the students stand in a circle, shoulder to shoulder, so they can feel the shoulder of the young lady next to them. And I encourage them to think about the strength that's in them and the strength that's in each of the other women, young women in the program. And to realize that we are all so much stronger together and that the seeds of our potential are inside of you. It's waiting to come out. It may have come out for some of us sooner rather than later. We might have gone down different paths at different times, but those seeds are there waiting to be found. And so I encourage you to think about your life to date, all that gold that's been waiting there for you to come back and claim it, and then to step out into the world and to decide who you want to be, because it really is a choice. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're going to give that to Susan. That's great.